Hello and welcome back to Political Predictions. And as you can tell by the title, this video is going to be about my prediction for the upcoming November elections in 2025. It's going to include the Virginia governor election, New Jersey's governor election, New York City's mayoral election, and California's Proposition 50 legislation. I'm going to give you my final prediction on the margins and who I think will win all of those races. Before we jump into it, I do want to ask you all to please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers, and we're a little bit over 400 right now, so if you guys could please like and subscribe to the video. It'd really help my channel a lot. The first thing I want to jump into here is President Trump's approval rating. Right now, it is sitting at minus 8.9. His approval rating has really taken a turn for the worse over the past couple of days. As you can see here, just on October 29th, it was minus 7 and is now almost minus 9. So just in the past couple of days, we had a few polls really across the board here that have shown surging for Democrats across the nation. A few very good polls. Are they going to be accurate? We really don't know because it has just been the last couple of days that we have seen really good numbers for Democrats, because before that, a lot of the numbers were actually starting to look good for Republicans, so it's kind of wishy-washy in terms of the polls. His approval rating is at minus 8.9 right now, as I mentioned before, because of these last few polls, and that is really not very good for Donald Trump. I was a little bit ago, if I were to record this video about a week ago, I'd have said minus 6.6, which is where it was about here, is really not that bad. However, 3% worse is pretty bad for Donald Trump. If you're at minus 9, you're really not doing too good in terms of approval rating. So Donald Trump's negative approval rating could really help, Democrats and hurt Republicans across the nation and across the board on all of these elections. So the first one I want to jump into is California Proposition 50. It is probably the least interesting of these. This is the polling for it. As you can see here, support is about plus 20 for most of these polls. What Proposition 50 is it would redistrict California. That would give Democrats a few extra seats in the House. It's basically in retaliation to Texas, who kind of did the same thing for Republicans. So obviously it's very split along party lines. Democrats are going to want to support it, and Republicans are going to want to oppose it. So obviously, since California is very liberal, it's almost certainly going to pass. I believe that it will pass by about 20 or 25%. If we do go back to the 2024 presidential election, we can see that Kamala Harris won by about 20%. However, before that, in 2020, Biden won by 30, and Hillary Clinton, she also won by 30. So before 2024, Democrats had about a plus 30 margin, and before 2024, most propositions were the liberal propositions were passing by about 25 to 30%. However, in 2024, there was a shift about 10% to the right, which is very significant. That's a loss of 1/3 of the Democrats' margin of victory in California. That does lead me to believe that there is some growing conservative movement in California that could lead to Proposition 50 being a little bit closer than expected, or at least a little bit closer than the 25 to 30% margins that we used to see before the 2024 election. So I do believe this proposition will probably pass by about 20 to 25%, like the polls are showing here. The next one I want to go into is New Jersey's gubernatorial election, which is right here. Right now, Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat, leads by 3.3 over Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican. It has gotten a lot closer recently. As you can see, in August and September, Mikey Sherrill was leading by about 9%, nearly double digits. In fact, she was leading by double digits in a lot of these early polling numbers here. But as we move into fall, as we got into October and the debates started happening where Jack Ciattarelli really thrived, particularly in the first debate he did very well in, the numbers got a lot closer, and it has gotten closer pretty much continuously up until this point now, where Mikey Sherrill is only winning by 3.3. About half of the polls included in the polling average actually show Mikey Sherrill winning by less than the margin of error. That really means it's very much up for grabs. A lot of polls show Mikey Sherrill under the magic number of 50, under the amount that you pretty much have the guaranteed win. If you get 50%, you obviously are going to win the election. So right now she's at plus 3.3. I actually do believe that Jack Ciattarelli could overperform this margin. A lot of the reason for this is because in New Jersey, or really across the country, gubernatorial elections are a lot less partisan. For example, if we go to governor elections here in 2023, Andy Beshear won Kentucky, and he's a Democrat. Kentucky is obviously a very Republican state, so governors can really win across party lines in states that don't match up with their party, and we saw this even in New Jersey. In 2021, Phil Murphy, who's the incumbent Democratic governor in New Jersey, won by 3.2 in a fairly liberal state like New Jersey. and it was against the same Republican candidate, Jack Ciattarelli. So what that means is that Ciattarelli does have higher name ID than he did in 2021, and Phil Murphy is still not too popular of a governor in 2025. So there is a real chance Jack Ciattarelli can upset Mikey Sherrill here and win the New Jersey gubernatorial election, which would really solidify New Jersey in its transition to becoming a purple state from being blue. Because as we all know, in 2024, Kamala Harris only won by 6, and in 2020, Joe Biden won by 16. That's a shift of 10% to the right. Like California, that is very, very significant. We saw in 2024, everyone was surprised with the New Jersey result, probably the most shocking result in the election. Will this trend continue? Will New Jersey continue to be a Republican-leaning state? If that could be its future if it continues. And we're really going to see what New Jersey's future is based off this election result here between Mikey Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli. Now moving on to Virginia's gubernatorial race between Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Earl Sears. This race has kind of had the opposite momentum. The Democrat Abigail Spanberger has started to gain a little bit of momentum over the past couple of weeks. In mid-October, she was only winning by about 6. Now she's up by about 9, so things have gotten better for her. Earl Sears has really struggled in the debate. She did not come across very well. Her messaging has kind of been scattered. It really hasn't been working out too well for Winsome Earl Sears. So Abigail Spanberger has started to grow a lot in the polls. A lot of polls now are showing her up in double digits. It's really starting to seem like an insurmountable lead for Earl Sears to win the election and really even close the gap, since we are just a couple days away from Election Day on Tuesday, November 4th. So I do believe that the polls will be kind of accurate here, maybe a little bit closer in Virginia. We didn't see too significant of a shift, although we did see a monumental one, I guess. In 2020, we saw Joe Biden win Virginia by about 10%, but in 2024, Kamala Harris only carried it by 6. That's about a 4% shift to the right, which isn't too crazy when you consider that the national electorate shifted 6% to the right as a whole. So it's a pretty moderate swing in terms of presidential elections, considering the national electorate swing. But where it gets really interesting is that in 2021, Virginia actually elected a Republican, Glenn Youngkin, which is a big surprise. A lot of people showed the Democrat beating Glenn Youngkin in the polls, so it was a pretty big surprise to see a Republican win in Virginia in 2021, which further shows my point that governor elections are a lot less partisan than Senate elections and especially presidential elections. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that Winsome Earl Sears does somehow upset Abigail Spanberger, but it would be a huge surprise, and I would be absolutely shocked if it does happen. Considering that Glenn Youngkin was a lot more popular than Winsome Earl Sears is right now. There is also an attorney general race happening in Virginia right now between incumbent Republican Attorney General Jason Miyares and Democratic challenger Jay Jones. As you can see, there's a huge contrast in the polling between this race and the gubernatorial race in Virginia, and that is because of a massive scandal that happened with Jay Jones that you might have heard about, where basically sent text messages insinuating that he wanted to kill some prominent Republican in Virginia, and that obviously was a very shocking thing that happened a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see here, before the scandal, every single poll showed Jay Jones winning, and after the scandal, nearly every single one has shown Jason Miyares winning, with the exception of one that has Jay Jones winning, which is actually pretty recently. So there is a chance Jay Jones wins. It is still pretty close in most of these polls, but I do believe that Jason Miyares does barely manage to eke it out. I don't think he will be able to do so by like 8 points like this poll is saying, because there's a huge decline in split-ticket voting. The gubernatorial race will be at the top of Virginia's voting ballot, and this will be down ballot. There's a huge decrease in split-ticket voting, so a lot less people are voting separately, up ballot and down ballot. Most people are just voting all Democrat or all Republican, and a lot of people don't know about the Attorney General race, so they'll just vote Democratic if they are Democratic, which is what most of Virginia is. So it's going to be inherently more difficult for a Republican to win, especially a down ballot race in a liberal-leaning state like Jason Miyares is doing in Virginia. So really, this Jay Jones implosion was a real miracle for Jason Miyares, so now there actually is a chance that he can win, and I do believe that he does barely eke it out because of this scandal's huge prominence. It was brought up in the gubernatorial debate. It has pretty much been nationwide news. So a lot of people do know about this now, so it is possible Jason Miyares wins. It is going to be very, very close, though, because of that split-ticket voting decline. The last race that I want to talk about is the New York City mayoral race. This is probably the most prominent one in the news. Right now, Zohran Mamdani is winning by 14.7. He's the Democratic candidate for the race. Obviously, New York City is a very liberal city. It's going to mostly vote Democratic. Mamdani is pretty leftward, even in the Democratic Party. He's a Democratic Socialist, kind of similar to Bernie Sanders or AOC. Andrew Cuomo is an incumbent. He used to be a Democrat. He ran in the Democratic primary, but he lost to Zohran Mamdani, yet he still ran as an independent in the general election anyways. Curtis Sliwa is the Republican running to be New York City's next mayor. Also, Eric Adams, who is the incumbent mayor of New York City. He was running in this election, and then he was running in the Democratic primary, but then he dropped out of that. Then he decided to run as an independent, which is shown right here, but then he dropped out of that a couple of weeks ago. So now it is just between Mamdani, Cuomo, and Sliwa. Eric Adams is not in the race at all right now. Right now, Zohran Mamdani, as mentioned previously, is winning by a pretty wide margin. 50% is a very big margin. Andrew Cuomo is in second, and Curtis Sliwa is in third. So I do believe that Zohran Mamdani will actually outperform his margin here, but that's not really him himself outperforming, because I believe that Curtis Sliwa will overperform his margins. Curtis Sliwa had a pretty effective debate. He had a lot of viral moments coming from that debate, and I believe that he will attract a lot of voters that would be voting for Andrew Cuomo and switch them back to Curtis Sliwa. So I do think that Cuomo and Sliwa will really kind of split the vote here. If they were to unite under one candidate, then they might have a chance of beating Mamdani, but it's not looking like that is going to happen. So I do believe that Mamdani is going to win by a pretty firm margin, probably even overperforming the polls. Not necessarily in his percentage of the vote, but in his margin, I do believe that he will overperform. And now we're going to get to my final prediction, and this is it. So we can see California Prop 50 is right here, New York City's mayor, Virginia governor, New Jersey governor, and then Virginia attorney general. For California's Proposition 50, I believe that it will pass by 22.5. For New York City's mayor, I believe that Mamdani will win by just under 20. As you can see here, I think that Cuomo and Sliwa will kind of split the vote here, where we do see Cuomo underperform and Sliwa overperform, while Mamdani mostly stays the same. In Virginia's governor race, Bamberger wins by 8.3, which is kind of expected. And in Mikey Sherrill's versus Jack Ciattarelli's race for New Jersey's governor, I do believe Mikey Sherrill wins by 2.1. So a little bit of an overperformance from Jack Ciattarelli, but not too much. And then lastly, we have Virginia's attorney general. This is the one to watch on election night. It will be very, very close. But I do believe that Jason Miyares barely ekes it out by 0.2. It's really like 51-49 here. It very much could go either way. This last poll for Virginia's attorney general, which, if I can pull it up here, had Jay Jones up by 2. This one poll really almost changed my mind. It almost made me put Jay Jones over the top, but I decided to keep it the same. It will be very close, this race. I would not be surprised at all if Jay Jones manages to pull it off. It will be very close, but this is my final prediction if you want to pause here and look at them all. So thank you all for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe. As mentioned earlier, I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers. I'm a little bit over 400. So yeah, if you did enjoy, please like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.